validation allows the other person to understand, okay, they actually get me. They're not just hearing the words, but they're hearing the intent.
Yep. And so if they're validating, that's great. That helps them get into a safe place. Now, invalidation is when a lot of men try to do things from a loving place, but accidentally invalidate by their comments.
Guys, we all know the importance of validation, making someone feel seen and heard. But do you know about invalidation and what it might be costing your relationships? Well, today at the TPM show, it's exactly what we're going to break down. So please stick around and stay to the end because we're going to give you some tips on how you can make sure that you aren't invalidating the people that you love. Today, we have special guest Brad Holt, my brother, and also the CEO of TPM. Brad, thanks for being here.
It's great being here. It was a fascinating topic because validation itself is so important. And as men or just as individuals, learning not to be so self-focused is tough. And we learned how to validate others. But now there's the whole topic of invalidation. And a lot of the men that I coach are now going like, oh no, I've been accidentally invalidating my wife.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think what we want to do here, first of all, Brad, let's break down what invalidation is. And maybe we can start by just explaining to some of the guys first, just give them a definition of what validation is so we can all be on the same page and then we can talk about the opposite. Validation, right? Something that we teach all the time. And a lot of guys, that's their starting point, right? We all know that a woman needs to feel emotionally safe, but she also needs to feel seen and heard. Right? You can't have desire until she feels seen and heard. And we teach a special type of validation we call the hidden motives technique to our men. And guys, if you're listening to this on the podcast or watching this on YouTube, you can go back. We've done a ton of episodes on the hidden motives technique. It's all there for you. It was over 850 episodes, I think now. And validation allows the other person to understand, okay, they actually get me. They're not just hearing the words, but they're hearing the intent.
Yep. As I like to say is that there's the data, the words, and then there's the emotional. And really, regardless of what they say, I accept it. And I don't try to go into defending what they're against it. I don't try to explain. I don't make excuses. I don't react to it, which we call deer mode, which most men go into. Like, hey, let me logic-based. And so if they're validating, that's great. That helps them get into a safe place. Now, invalidation is when a lot of men try to do things from a loving place, but accidentally invalidate by their comments. And one example would be if my wife says, I'm feeling fat. I love my wife. I think my wife is beautiful. And I would say, you don't look fat. You look great. Now, I really think as a guy that I'm doing a great thing. What a nice compliment. I'm being really good. But in essence, I've stayed on the data level and didn't hear her emotions. And instead, I just invalidated her comment.
On the flip side of that, right? So what you're saying is she's coming to you and she's just sharing. She's just sharing something. It's not necessarily factual. It's how she's feeling in that moment. And you're trying to be the nice guy and say, oh no, and reassure her that everything's okay, that she's beautiful, and et cetera. But you're missing the actual deep undertone of what's really going on for her.
Yeah, and I don't think I really got this in probably about 5, maybe 7 years ago. I was talking with my daughter and my wife and some of my wife's friends about invalidation and what I discovered. And you just saw all the women go, yes, nodding like men do this all the time. And I'm going like, oh my gosh. This is a really big deal. We've been accidentally trying to prop them up, encourage them, and actually by doing it, we've actually invalidated all their emotions.
So let me give the flip side to this, the counterpoint that I teach the guys sometimes too. And you can do this in negotiations. Nobody can argue your feelings, right? Because they can't feel into them. If you as a man are leading with, well, here's how I feel. I don't feel safe in this environment. I don't feel safe with you going out with another man to dinner or whatever it may be. They can't argue with the way that you feel about it. Conversely, when in your example, when your wife is sharing with you, hey, I feel that I'm fat, she's not saying I am fat. She's just saying, hey, I feel a little bloated today or what have you. And she just wants to talk about what that feeling is or what the undercurrent that's occurring for her.
Yeah, and I think men, we do this all the time, and that's why all these women were nodding. Like they're so used to men invalidating them, they just don't say anything.
Yeah.
They just kind of like. And so when I was commenting, to see this just, I want to say heard, but a group of women just nodding like, yeah, that's true. I go, oh crap, we do this more than I thought we did.
Let's give a couple more examples for the guys to understand when this could happen. What are some other ways that men invalidate their partners or other people in their lives?
It could be also just their political views. They could be how they raising children. It could be just coming home from work talking about, something. We want to go and solve things, and by trying to explain or encourage them, we sometimes invalidate those.
A real common one, Brad, that I hear from the guys, the scenario, I'll set the scene for it, is, their wife has become maybe a stay-at-home mother, or she's in a transitionary period in her life. And because of that, she can feel stuck, not sure what to do. Maybe the kids are a little bit older. They don't need mom all the time. And she doesn't know what that next transition is. So if she says, yeah, I'm just not sure what I'm going to do now that the kids don't need me anymore, what guys will do, what I could do, and I've seen a lot of guys do this, is they go right into problem-solving mode, right? Let me solve the problem for you or with you, rather than saying, gosh, that's got to be really tough to not know what your next move is. I'd imagine, that's got to feel a little lonely, a little sad, a little scary to some degree.
Yeah. And we've been doing it so long, the wall they've built is they don't share. And the eye-opening for the men that I'm working with is like, oh my gosh, I've been invalidating her comments for 20 years. No wonder she's upset with me and doesn't trust me. Even though they're using the validation, they're using the hidden motives, they're really showing up, they still, in a way, try to solve the problem by encouraging them and propping them up and telling them how great they are when maybe they aren't doing great.
Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this episode, but the reality is if you are watching or listening to this right now, then you are looking to better yourself. And I applaud you. You're one of my people. And I want to give you the opportunity of taking massive action. So if you haven't joined the activation method yet, it's our flagship program. Do what thousands of other businessmen just like you have done and take action. Be one of the 1%ers that actually does the work and takes action. There'll be a link in the description that'll take you right to a page. They'll just give you more information. There is no obligation. Just go check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. All right, let's get back to this episode.
And you can not only do this with your wife, you can do this with your kids, with your coworkers, your employees, your staff, or anybody. But in particular, to your point, guys that have daughters, you and I have daughters. So, that's a great place to practice using this technique and checking yourself on the invalidation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty positive guy. And so sometimes if someone's maybe depressed or in a funk, maybe so not clinically depressed, but in a funk, just, hey, throw positivity. Even my positive attitude, even without the words I say, can really express invalidation to another person. Or worse would be if I try to give them advice, unsolicited advice on, hey, here's how you can be better. Just have a great attitude.
Yeah. No one ever does that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a really good gem. And again, it's like that little tweak that everybody gets to do. And I think when you mentioned this before we started recording, I instantly started thinking of all the ways that I do this constantly. And it's a reflex, right? Just to do it because innately, I want people around me to feel good. And so if someone comes up to me and says, yeah, I feel fat. That's a great one. I'm just feeling fat now, or whatever it may be, getting to the root cause of that and really talking about it rather than just trying to problem solve.
Yeah, and I found just sometimes, guys, we talk about the 5-second rule. Just wait 5 seconds. So I go, hey, you might say, hey, I'm feeling really fat. I can't, and I just be quiet. And then you start to go into why you feel that way and give that space for people to talk more is great. Because for me, when I think of invalidation, how many times I've done with my children. My kids are young adults now, and I never want them to feel bad. So when they run into a problem, I try to lift them up when I really should have been quiet, listened, and really try to tune into the emotional wavelength as opposed to the actual words they were saying, to understand how they feel and making sure they really knew that they were understood.
That makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. And I saw this actually happen. We had just a few days ago, we had 10 men from their one-on-one clients and a few guys from the Inner Circle, which is our highest level mastermind group here at the TPM Ranch. And I saw this a lot. So around the table, when we're having dinner or we're just talking, a guy might share something that's going on in his relationship, his business, just for him personally. Now, these are all high-performing businessmen, so we talk a lot about business. A guy would share something, a thought or an idea, and other guys would just bite their tongue for a little bit, and then he would go on to further explain what was really going on so we could get to the crux of the issue of really what was happening for him.
Yeah, and a lot of times the other person doesn't know. They have feelings come in and they go out.
Yep.
But if you actually start to invalidate it, it gets stuck. We cement that in there. Like now they're in an awkward position.
Yeah, absolutely. So what coming out of this, I can imagine a lot of guys, watching this or listening to this are going, crap, I do that. What are some ways that men can catch themselves and course correct?
Well, there's two things I recommend. One is using that 5-second rule I mentioned earlier. Really pause. It gives you time to think and gives them space to talk more. So you really understand what's going on. The second thing, be aware of your body language, your tone of voice when you're talking with them, because sometimes we just get so focused on the words because that's really sending the bigger message. And the third thing is just really make sure you're grounded and so you can tune into that emotional wavelength so you don't try to solve the problem and understand that their emotions are real. And when you try to solve it, even from a good place, you can accidentally invalidate someone else's emotions.
I love that. And then there's one thing that I think a lot of the guys want to do is practice. So here I am. I'm a husband, and my daughter, my wife comes up to me. She says, "Oh gosh, I just really feel fat today. I tried on my bathing suit, and I just feel frumpy." And I then go, "Oh babe, you look beautiful. Don't worry about it," and walk away. But after I walk away, I catch myself going, "Oh, that's that invalidation thing that Brad and Doug were talking about." What do I do then?
I always use open-ended questions. Oh man, that's tough. Why are you feeling that way? Or how are you feeling? Or ask her to give more and let them express. Because it could be just biological, it could be psychological. Just let them explain it by using open-ended questions.
Okay, I love that. And what I'm thinking of is guys that already screwed up. How do we go back and clean it up?
Oh, quickly apologize. Hey, you know what? I just noticed you said this and I really kind of invalidated it. I actually used that word. I invalidated what you said and I apologize. It must suck feeling that way. Any way I can support you?
Perfect. So it's using the version of the hidden motives technique. We're coming in and doing it. And guys, I don't think you have to necessarily apologize all the time, but you can just call out the elephant in the room. You know it. She knows it, right? She knew it before you did. That's the only case. Come back and clean it up. Give her a hug and talk to her.
Yeah, recognize. Just take the ownership and go, okay, and then move forward. Ask more questions.
I love it. This is such a great topic because we've never talked about invalidation on the show before. And I actually never thought about it this way until you brought it up. So thanks for sharing.
Oh, you bet, man.
Awesome. Gentlemen, as we always say in the moment of insight, take massive action. Where are you invalidating the people in your life? Once you discover it, go back and clean it up, just like Brad was sharing with you. But then also put it in your consciousness. Start looking in your daily conversations where invalidation can come up. A lot of times it starts with a complaint, right? I'm feeling fat, or whatever else it may be that your wife or people around you are saying. Catch it, use the 5-second rule that Brad shared with you, and then go back and validate. And you're going to see your relationships changing. Guys, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time on the TPM Show.